Addressing inequality has been a central demand of the Black Lives Matter movement in the wake of the killing of George Floyd while in police custody. Equity in education is part of that. Here to talk about a new webinar series offered by ChamberRVA is Leah Walker. She's the Director of Equity and Community Engagement at the Virginia Board of Education. Ms. Walker, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. We're 66 years after the Brown versus the Board of Education. It said separate is inherently unequal. So what do we mean today when we talk about equity in education?
Thank you. In Virginia, at the Virginia Department of Education, we define equity as our inability to predict student outcomes based on race, gender, zip code, ability, and socioeconomic status, or the languages that our students speak at home. We define equity this way because this is where we see the greatest gaps, both in academic opportunity and academic achievement in the Commonwealth. And so it is our mission at VDOE to provide a system of public education that eradicates that predictability based on those factors.
So that sounds like a noble aim, but why are we talking about it now? So, and where would we start?
So we've actually been working on this for several years at the Department of Education. But why is it more relevant today? We're having conversations about social justice, trying to move beyond this notion of equality where everybody gets the same thing versus equity when we start beginning to talk about equity and outcomes, that everyone has what is necessary to achieve the same outcomes or to actualize in the same way. And why is that important today? It's important because we don't have any more time to waste. We have generations of students that are relying on us to provide a pathway to opportunity so that they can secure the future that they deserve to have.
So is this something that the legislature alone can or cannot fix? Obviously we want the whole community involved, the whole Commonwealth in this sense, but does it start with the legislature?
I think it starts with each one of us individually being strong advocates for and enacting an advocacy agenda around equity. And then we do need to rely on our policymakers, our state leaders, national leaders, and our local leaders to center equity in the way that they approach resourcing schools, providing supports to students. All of that comes into play when we think about the role of our legislature, the role of our local school boards, and the role of our education leaders in the state.
It seems like the funding mechanism that we rely on might have to be tweaked as well. If we get a federal subsidy, a state subsidy, but then if localities are largely responsible for the balance, surely there needs to be some streamlining or equalizing there.
Right. And I think when we use the word equalizing, we imply in some ways that everyone gets the same thing. And really what we need to look at are the needs. And when we say that every student in our system of public education should have the opportunity to maximize their individual achievement and their individual potential, that's going to require us to look at the individual needs of those students and resource our schools adequately so that they can support those needs in a scaffolded way.
And do you worry that the pandemic is going to expose that inequitable status? That is, those that are being left behind in a day-to-day way are now going to be further behind because they don't have access to the internet or whatever the tools they might need for virtual learning?
Absolutely. I worry about that every single day. But I also think that the pandemic and its ability to expose some of these inequities that are inherent within our system really do give us an opportunity to rethink and reframe how we support students and how we provide from a systems level, a system of education that truly does allow each and every child to maximize their potential. And that truly is our goal.
So tell us about the webinar series that starts tomorrow. It'll be every Wednesday for the next 5 weeks at 2 p.m. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so myself and our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Dr. James Lane, will be sharing on a panel tomorrow with the ChamberRVA and really talking about our plan at the Virginia Department of Education, both to center equity and how we think about reopening schools, and also how we, in a long-term vision, center equity and the way we provide support to school divisions going forward. So I hope that everyone will join us. I know the series will continue after us and feature local equity directors who are doing this work at the local level and others who are engaged in the advocacy space around education equity.
All right, we'll put all that on our website as well. Leah Walker, she is the Director of Equity and Community Engagement at the Virginia Board of Education. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, let's send it over to Zach now.